Okay, let's start actually making a video. Let's start making a sequence, putting all these gems into our timeline and rearranging them and actually making something. So we need visible our interview bin. So if you need to get in a view where you can see that, twirl it open. What we're going to do is we're going to take interview Jeff. So if you want to find that, they are alphabetized, which is helpful. And we're going to drag that onto the new item icon, which looks like the piece of paper with the corner torn up, and we see the plus sign. And when we let go, it automatically did two things. It put Interview Jeff into our timeline at the beginning, and in our project panel, it made a sequence. And you can see that it's got a different looking icon and a different color coding. In my case, it's green. And then the name of that sequence right now is Interview Jeff, because that's what the other one was named. Obviously, that's not probably what we want to call it, so we're going to click on it to get it to highlight in blue so that we can rename it. And are you ready for this one? We're going to name this Poolside _ capital BTS, which is behind the scenes, _ 01. And then hit enter. So we now have a sequence called Poolside BTS 01. It is living in the interview bin right now. You think that's a good place for it to live? Okay, how about we make a new bin? So come on down to your icons and click on the new bin icon. And the bin that is created for us says bin. We're going to rename this sequences. And then notice that it's nested inside of our interview bin because that's where we were located at the time. So we don't really want it there. We want it out and about. So we can drag this folder or bin out and drag it elsewhere for the first step. Or we can twirl this open and then twirl open the interview. And what we really want to do is drag it all the way out of the footage bin completely. So I'm going to drag the sequence bin out until it is, why won't it let me do this? Let go. I want to put it out on its own, not nested in anything.
I took the sequence out first and then made a new bin and put it inside there.
You can't even get it. It should light up with a blue line between the two so you could drop it off. All right, I had to dump it into audio for now, which is not what I wanted to do. But now at least when I twirl that one open, I have dead space down here that I can drop it into. So however you need to do it so that you see some empty space where you can drop into empty space, we're going to now have 3 bins: audio, footage, and sequences. Okay. All right, at this point, do a file, save as, and we're just going to change our page number to be 90. So if we have any mistakes, at least we can back up. All right, markers. We talked about that, I think, last week in class, those little green markers that we can put on a whole sequence or just a clip. And that helps us know when certain things are happening that we want to align to or have a certain action, maybe when there's something happening in the sound. So we're going to add some markers to a clip first. So we're going to twirl open our audio panel in the project panel. And we're going to double click the instrumental. Again, if you need to make this column wider so you can read the whole name. Double click the instrumental to bring it up into here. Are you guys seeing markers, or is that just because I've played with this before? You guys don't have those green markers, right? No. Okay. Clear all markers. I'll wipe mine out. Okay, so up in this audio file that we have open now, we're going to in theory, we would be listening to it and hearing where the beat starts or where a cymbal crashes or something like that. But we're going to go to the time code. So if you type in here 416, that takes you to time code of 0416. This is where the drum beat would start if we were listening to it and we want to add a marker. The easiest way is to just push letter M on your keyboard, and that adds that green marker down in the timeline. We're going to either scrub ahead or we're going to use the time code and we're going to jump to 2020. Right? 2020. This is where the synthesizer comes in, and this is another place that we want to throw down a marker, so letter M. All right. Then they go on to say, however, if the synthesizer marks the first transition in the music, which in turn would serve logically as a place to cue for a visual transition, you probably don't want to have to wait over 16 seconds to get to that point. So again, we're going to do some in and out points on this where we just don't need everything. So take your playhead to, I'm going to just type in the number here, 1208, and letter I for in. We're going to mark the in point there. So that first marker that we made, we decided we're not even going to use, but it can stay there. Then we're going to scrub the playhead to, this is a long number, 20004. 20004. This is where a symbol crashes, and we're going to put a marker here. So M for marker. All right, so what we did was we just trimmed off some of the beginning of this, but we're not changing the ending. We're letting it play through to the ending. All right, what we're going to do now is we're going to take this track from our project panel and we're going to drag it to our timeline. So make sure that your timeline is visible. And if you want to expand these tracks so that they're wider and you can see them better, hover on those double lines between so that you can see a bigger preview of everything and you can see all of your tracks. So right now we have the clip of Jeff, and the audio one is the audio that goes with that. So the sound that we're going to bring in, we're going to be putting on audio track 2, which is the next one down. And we're going to put it so that it starts right after the interview with Jeff ends. So drag it from the project panel onto audio 2 track, and it's going to snap basically to the end of his interview, but be down 1 track on audio 2. If you need to zoom in on your timeline, use the equal key. Zoom out is the minus key. So if you need to see closer what you're working with, use those 2 keys. Okay, right now we don't necessarily, it depends what view you're in, you might not be seeing those clip markers on your audio track unless your timeline is expanded. So to get that to show, in your timeline at the top right where your time code is, you have a bunch of icons and one is a wrench. Click on that wrench and choose from it expand all tracks. It's about 3/4 of the way down. That's going to make all of them a little wider, taller, and now you should see those markers. Do you see the one in your audio track?
Doesn't say that.
Sorry, I'm just having a
Yes.
I got to that point, but I didn't get the right click.
Click on the wrench
Oh, no.
and then expand all tracks about 3/4 of the way down.
Thank you.
Yep. And then the equal sign on your keyboard or the minus will zoom in and out on your timeline. So you might need to zoom out a little bit to see that first marker. It's a ways down.
I don't have one that says expand.
In the wrench,
This wrench.
it's about 3/4 of the way down.
Or in the source.
The wrench.
Nope, in the timeline panel. You're in the timeline.
You know the wrench. Okay.
Timeline panel. Down here, we have a wrench.
And if you choose the wrench in
Timeline down here. Because what we're trying to do is expand these so that they're thicker and we can actually see that marker. Do you guys see it now? See, señorita? We see the marker? Yes. Okay.
Damn.
All right. We are going to go down in our timeline, click on that to activate that and put the blue box around it. We're going to take our playhead, which is at the top there, and we're going to start dragging it to the right. And we're going to hold down Shift when we get closer to that marker, and it's going to snap to it perfectly. So scrub your playhead out in the timeline until it snaps to the marker, which on mine shows up as 12:15.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So we've added a marker to an actual clip. In this case, it was an audio clip. We can now add markers to our whole sequence. So they will show up on the timeline, the time ruler here at the top of our timeline when we add those. We're going to create a sequence marker at this current point, which is where the marker is in our audio clip right now, by pressing the M key. And now that we did it down here, it adds the marker up here at the top of our timeline, so we can see it there. We know that something happens at that point, based on what we marked in our audio clip also. All right, now we're going to do some edits in the timeline. This is where we're going to add most of our clips. So we're going to add things to video 1 and 2 track after Jeff. We're going to keep plopping them in here. And because you guys have already put in and out markers on them, whatever little clip you suggested is what's going to come in, okay? So twirl open your footage bin in your project panel.
Mine will pull up the marker thing, but it won't have it. Mine will get it so it's not highlighted.
Stop right there.
Yeah, click to deselect this. Just click here to deselect. Here it goes. Okay. Open footage bin, open interview bin. First one we're going to do, or the first thing we're going to do is wherever your playhead is, when you drag over, it'll snap to that. It'll put it right there. So it's good to set your playhead first and then drag over. So we're going to go to time code in your timeline down here, the actual sequence we're putting together. Type in 1817. And it looks crazy right now. I'm gonna zoom out on my timeline and I'm gonna show you that it's not miles down the road. There's a gap here that we're leaving on purpose and we'll put stuff there later, but we're gonna start assembling all these interview clips now on audio and video track 1, and this is the music that's playing in the background also. So at 1817, we're gonna go over to our interview bin and we are gonna drag Dwight 1, camera 1. So Dwight 1, C1, find that. We're going to drag it onto the timeline and so it snaps to our playhead. And we're going to let go, and there's Dwight 1, camera 1, starting at that 1817 point where our playhead was located. Then we're going to choose and drag interview Philip. So go find that one. And we're going to basically just keep putting these behind the one we just last did. So interview Philip, drag it out, and snap it to where that other one stops. Notice that this is a long clip, but you guys probably see this comment, and there's a green section that says use this section. I showed you that in our other book, how you can put metadata in where you can write comments with markers. This was done in a previous chapter. Somebody else had looked at this and said, this is the good section, but they didn't literally set in and out points because they weren't smart enough or high enough up on the totem pole to do that. They could just leave comments. So that's why this clip looks like it does. We're going to pare this one down eventually. All right, next one we're going to do, we did Philip. We're going to drag Dwight 2. Dwight 2, not the camera 2. Make sure you've got the right one. So Dwight 2. And that's going to come over after Philip. If you need to zoom out on your timeline, remember the minus key will do that. Then we're going to grab the interview of Heidi. Interview Heidi. She's going to come next in line. Notice also that what's showing in our program monitor is wherever the playhead happens to be, and it's still at the start of this first clip. That's why that's all we keep seeing here. All right, after Heidi, we're going to drag Adam 1 in line. I have this printed out too. I'll give it to you in a second so that you can make sure everything's correct. Then we're going to drag Tyler 1. Then we're going to drag one of the sub clips that we made. We're going to do the interview Adam 2, but we're going to choose the moving so fast sub clip. That's going to be next in line. After that, we're going with Dwight 3. Then we're going with the other sub clip, Gonna Be Awesome. So interview Adam 2, Gonna Be Awesome. Then Tyler 2. And finally, Adam Jeff. At this point, do a file, save as, call it page 96. Yes, I do want to replace it. And so, one thing that you can do that's very helpful is you can lock down tracks when you don't want to accidentally bump them. Perhaps you've had that happen already. You've selected a clip and bumped it a little bit and you didn't mean to. Another thing is this audio. So the whole time this song is playing, we can't hear what they're saying up here. So we're going to lock down and mute the audio track right now. So if you go to the audio track, audio 2, right above the words audio 2, you see the letter M for mute. Click on that to mute it. It turns blue and lights up a square. And then to the left, we see the padlock. Click on that, and that's going to lock it. You're going to get the slashed lines through it, and that's going to remind us that that clip is now locked down. So now when I play, that song is no longer blaring in the background. So we've locked it and muted it. All right, now we have clips on the timeline, and we're going to do some editing to those using some of the things we talked about last week, but didn't really do a great deal with, to be honest. So that ripple edit is something that we talked about. So that allows us to trim frames from the in or out points in our clip on the timeline, and any clips on that same track or any track that's not locked. So in our audio and video 1, nothing is locked. Any clips are going to move to the left back in time to fill up those gaps, so it's not going to leave a gap. The tool that we need from our toolbar, if you have a double toolbar like I do, it's the second one down on the left. It is a line with arrows to the right and left of it. It is the Ripple Edit tool. Switch to that tool. We are going to be working on the clip of Philip, this really long one that has the green section noted. Because of that, you might want to zoom in a little bit. We want to be able to see the start and end of this Philip clip. So zoom in a little, pull that little slider at the bottom of the timeline, left or right, to get it positioned where you need it. All right, with this Ripple Edit tool, we're going to hover right near the in point of Philip, and we're going to see a yellow bracket and an arrow going to the right. Make sure that you're going to the right so you're on the inside of Philip, and we're going to drag it. Whoops, we needed to do something with the playhead first. The second one down on the left-hand column. But before we do that, let's go to our time code and take it to 3821. Notice that that is somewhere within that green section that your junior editor said use this, but it's not exactly at the start. So again, with that Ripple Edit tool, we're going to hover near the start of the Philip clip until we get that yellow bracket, and we're going to drag it to the right until it snaps to our playhead. When we let go, it trimmed off all that stuff and then sucked the whole track back to the left so there's no hole. That's a Ripple Edit. So it sucked it back this way. Didn't leave that hole. All good? The first thing you needed to do was make sure that your playhead was at 3821. and then use that ripple edit tool and pull the beginning of it back to the playhead. Your playhead is still going to be out at 30 and 11.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. So here, zoom in a little bit. It's easier to see. Just play with plus modifiers.
What is it?
Okay, so you got 38.
Is it 38?
Mhm.
Sure.
And then the
What do you do?
edit over here. Now pull this until it snaps to this playhead. And then let go. And now see how it trims all that even out and something. Yeah, it's really hard to see this when you're zoomed out and it's really small. You can't tell if you're making progress. So zoom in on this clip so you can see what you're doing. So now all of that dead part before that did not have use this section is gone. And it starts where our playhead was and sucks it back to the left. All right. Now, let's see. Take our playhead to the end point, the start of interview Philip. And we're going to see, I'll play it for you so you don't have to with your headphones.
With this particular song,
We started right there. We cut that off. It's gone. That was the edit that we made. Now take your timeline playhead to 4402. Notice, and again, zoom in if you need to a little bit. Notice that's inside of that green mark section that said use this section, but you're also going to be able to need to see the end of this clip. So I've got to zoom out a smidge. I need to be able to go to the end of Philip's clip. We're going to use that ripple edit tool again. We're going to go to the end of the Philip clip, and when we hover and we get the yellow bracket with the arrow going backwards, we're going to drag that out point until it snaps to where our playhead is now. Everything got edited off, and the ripple edit sucked all the other things on tracks that are unlocked back to the left to fill the gap.
What was the first mark again? The one for sucking in.
The first time or the
Yeah,
second time?
first time.
The first time suck in was 3821. And then the end point suck in was 4402. Those are really good terms. That's a ripple edit. Did not leave any gaps. All right, next one we're gonna do interview Adam Jeff. We need to go to the time code of 15201. And then I'm gonna zoom in so I can see that I'm in that clip of interview Adam and Jeff. I'm zoomed in, I can see the end and the beginning, and that's basically all I can see in my timeline. I'm really zoomed in. First, let me play this for you guys. So I'm just going to back up to the start and play this. You can listen to what's happening.
yeah, we're like approaching the final shot here. We're getting the wide shot.
So he kind of looks around and doesn't say anything for a few minutes.
Final shot.
Seconds.
Wide shot, which is looks fantastic.
5201.
Can't complain.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not.
No, I
Never
know,
mind,
final
it's in my
stretch.
video.
Final stretch. It's actually rolling right now. Which
Okay, so that's the whole long clip. So 15201 puts us a little bit into the interview with Adam and Jeff. Everybody has that gap, yep. What happens at 152 for you?
This is where I am. So I can not even build a clip before I put it away.
Well, how zoomed in are you?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're not in that clip yet. So my guess is a previous clip you either doubled up on or you forgot in and out points of it from that earlier exercise and it's running too long. What you can do for now, the time codes aren't going to match, but move your playhead ahead into that clip a little bit until it looks like this. His mouth is open. I can't tell you a timeline. So he's looking at the camera and he turns and opens his mouth. This is why I said having these clips exactly matching is important, because I can't tell you time codes and have it work if you have something off. But for the sake of learning these skills, you're just going to have to put your playhead there and play along. Okay. We're going to go to our tools and get the razor. Do you see that to the right of the one we're just using? Shortcut is C for cut. Grab your razor. With this razor tool, hover right over where the playhead is on that interview Adam Jeff. When it's over the playhead, click once. And that's going to cut anything in any track that's not locked. So it cut our audio and our video. It did not cut audio to the song because that's locked down. Take your playhead back a smidge so that it's now over the section of that first cutout piece. So we cut that into two pieces, a small one at the front, a bigger one at the back. Move your playhead back so that it's hovering over the smaller piece and press the D key on your keyboard. That will select the clip underneath wherever your playhead is. So by moving our playhead to be inside of those boundaries and pressing the D key, it selected that clip. And notice that it grabbed both the audio and the video. And then we're going to go up to our menu way at the very top, and we're going to choose Edit, Ripple Delete, which is Shift Delete button if you have that one on your keyboard, but Ripple Delete. That deleted out that chunk in both tracks and pulled everything back to the left also. Ripple Delete.
What was that shortcut again?
What's your question?
What's that shortcut again? Let's see.
Well, you have to have the forward delete button, and I don't know that you do on your smaller keyboard. So just go up and do it through the menu. Edit, Ripple, Delete.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That takes that little chunk that we just cut with a razor and gets rid of it.
Mine wants to take both audios.
It does. That's true. The audio that goes with the video?
I think I got it. Never mind. Okay.
Yeah, because those two go together. So cut out both of those. Now take your playhead down in the timeline to 2:06:20. So that is further down in that clip with just a little bit of it left. This is where Adam and Jeff finished sharing a laugh. And since there are no clips after it, if there was a clip here and we deleted this, we would want it to suck in to the left to fill that gap. Since there's nothing here, we don't need to do a ripple delete. We can just simply delete it. There's nothing else that needs to be dragged down. So a simple trim is going to work. And we're going to do this in a way that I don't think we've done before, and this is really awesome and simple. Switch to your selection tool, the normal letter V, just like in all Adobe products. And we're going to go to the end of this clip, and we're going to hover until we get a red bracket with a left arrow going backwards. And we're simply going to click and drag this endpoint until it snaps to our playhead. We just trimmed off all of that. We didn't need to select it and delete it. We just trimmed it back. This is non-destructive. If I came back and said, oh, there's stuff I wanted, I can still pull it out to the right. You see how I did that? It's still there. But by using this and pulling it back, it's a non-destructive edit. You could have also done this up in your source monitor by setting in and out points and just bringing in the clip that way. But if you want to do editing right here in the timeline, it's very easy. So again, do you guys know why we were able to just use the selection tool here? There's no other tracks behind it that were going to be affected. So we didn't have to worry about a gap or anything. Okay, we're going to learn about extract. This is when Premiere allows us to define a range in our sequence, so more than one clip. And basically we do a ripple delete or an extract of the segment, and all unlocked tracks that fall in this timeline range are going to be extracted. Let's see, type in 1:15:07. 1:15:07 should be the endpoint of the interview Tyler 1, and I'm off a little myself now. It's interesting how that happens. It's worked perfectly several times and now it's not.
Mine's there.
Is it?
Yeah, so my error must be after that.
After that, yeah. So take it to the endpoint of interview Tyler 1. Listen to my version of playing it.
The soundstage next door.
So he says, we got, and then he thinks for a while, and then he starts talking again. We're going to edit out the beginning of this soundbite by setting an in and out point, and then using the extract right here in the timeline. So we're going to go to the start point of this clip, where we were before, 1:15:07, or in my case, 1:15:12. And we're going to press I for the in key. Notice we're doing that on our whole timeline. And look at how it's lighting up on our actual timeline. Then we're going to take it ahead to 1:16:19 or thereabouts. And this is where Tyler says soundstage. So somewhere in there. Again, you're listening to it in real life, not typing in numbers. So 1:16:19-ish, somewhere in there. And at this point, you're going to press the letter O for your out. So right now we have an in and an out point selected on our entire timeline, which you can see affects the audio track 2, but it's locked, so it's not going to do anything to it. All right, we're going to remove the pause in there using the extract button. So go up into your program monitor, the one on the right that has the picture of Tyler, right where the playhead is right now. And underneath there we have all the different icons, and we can see towards the end of that lift, extract, export a frame, or comparison view. We're going to use the extract button. Click on that. That in and out point that we had just set gets sucked away, deleted, and everything moves to the left to fill in. If audio track 2 were not locked down, it would have removed those points as well, so that wouldn't be very good. In your, do you have it in and out point set?
Yeah.
Okay, then in the program monitor, you're going to choose the icon that says extract. So 27 ways to do the same thing. You know, do we do ripple edits? Do we extract? Do we push the extract button? Do we hit delete on our keyboard? Whatever. All right. Let's do a file save as. We are done with that, and it's going to be page 102. All right, now comes kind of the fun part. I know you guys are super excited, but all we have right now is a bunch of actual interviews. So we have them talking about things, but you noticed in the final video, every now and then when they were talking about something, they cut to B-roll. So on video track 2, we're going to put mini clips of things happening. So while they're talking about it, it cuts to that. And just like in Photoshop, if it's on a layer above it, in the video case, it's going to cover up what's below unless you do blending or something special. So if we have B-roll sitting up here, when the playhead gets to that, it's going to stop showing the interview and it's going to start showing the B-roll in video track 2 above it. All right, so let's do that. Let's add some B-roll. So first thing we might want to do is in this interview bin, twirl it shut and twirl open our B-roll, because these are the options we're going to be using going forward. Take your playhead, oops, I'm in the wrong one, almost all the way back to the beginning, and there's that big gap. So after interview Jeff, get your playhead to the end of interview Jeff, and then there's that big gap that starts before we go back into other footage. We're going to fill that gap with B-roll footage, and we're going to put it on video track 2. We're not actually going to fill in the gap on 1. We could, but for organizational purposes, we want all of our B-roll stuff to be in video track 2. All right, go into the B-roll and grab one that starts out prod. So production, and then, excuse me, ladder is the file that we're looking for. Production ladder. We're going to drag that onto video track 2 so the endpoint snaps to where the interview with Philip ends on the track below it. You can see it doesn't quite fill that gap. It's okay. Oh, their names drive me nuts. This guy is Jeff. So after his interview is when that starts, the B-roll starts. Is that your question? Yeah. Okay. All right, so you can see the B-roll footage up in your program monitor is like an overall up high view of the soundstage taken from a ladder. So that's where the name came. All right, we're gonna do some basic editing to this on our timeline again. Take your playhead to the endpoint of interview Dwight 2. So it's not that first one we see, not Philip. So interview Dwight 2 starts. Come on. For me at 4407. You guys see where that is? Got your playhead there?
52.
4407 is mine. To the start of it. Yep.
402.
Yeah, we're all going to be a little different. So take your playhead to the end point, the starting point of interview Dwight number 2. So it's this one, the Rubik's Cube, and the background. On our other track, we're going to add a couple of clips to illustrate what he's talking about. So go back to your B-roll, and we're going to find a clip called Pre-Dwight Philip watching laptop video 02. It's a mouthful. So pre-Dwight Philip watching laptop video 02. You might have to make that column wider to make sure you have the 02. And we're going to drag that so that it starts at where our playhead is on video track 2. Then go back to your project panel and grab the one that looks the same but ends in video 1, the one right above it. And we're going to put that one right after this clip. So drag that onto our timeline and put it after that short clip ends so that they're stacked together. Clip 2, then clip 1. Okay, do you see anything that could be wrong? Because it's Dwight talking about stuff, and then the B-roll footage goes beyond the Dwight interview and covers up a little bit of Heidi. You guys see that on the timeline? That's obviously probably an issue. So take your selection tool, the black arrow, letter V, take the out point of this last video that we just put in and drag it to the left, and instead of snapping to something, there's a little gray tooltip that's going to light up as we start dragging. We're going to drag it until it's a duration of 3 seconds. So watch that countdown, and when it says 300, let go. So we only want this clip to be on for 3 seconds. So using that tooltip, we were able to shorten it from the end to be only 3 seconds. Everybody good? All right, let's take our timeline, we'll see if this jives with what it says, to 1:18:18. Okay, this jumps into our clip of Tyler 1. I'm going to play it because we're watching for him to describe the overall action that's going to be taking place. So I'm going to back it up, or actually I'm going to play right from here and see if it works.
They're going to be sort of performing while they have.
Okay, that's pretty good. So 1:18:18, or when Tyler starts talking about this action. With your playhead there, we're going to bring another clip up onto video track 2 and snap it to this playhead. So we're going to go grab one called Production Monitor Adam Philip. So Prod Monitor Adam Philip. Prod Monitor Adam Philip. And we're going to drag it so that it snaps to our playhead at the current time. All right, we're going to use the razor tool again on this clip. So I'm going to play it just so you can see where we stand right now with this clip. You can see that it overlays another interview. So this is what we see right now.
They're going to be sort of performing while they have some backup dancers. Yeah, just kind of getting everything together. We're about to roll some camera.
So that B-roll clip is way too long, obviously.
Have to roll some paper.
I'm going to roll some camera. All right. Take our playhead to 1:20:06. And again, if this doesn't jive exactly, I just want you to get the idea of how these tools are being used. It's not going to be a perfectly clean edit. The good news is when we move forward from chapter to chapter, they give us a clean file. So if you're off by a couple seconds now, when we start the next chapter, you'll have a perfect file again, which is a good thing. All right, so we're at 1:20:06 with our playhead. Grab your razor tool. And we're going to go, I'm going to zoom in again, and we're going to click once on the timeline where our playhead is with the razor tool. That splits that into two different pieces. There's a small one first and the longer one at the end. Switch back to your selection tool, or letter V is the shortcut. We're going to choose the segment after we made that cut, so the one on the right-hand side, and we're just simply going to push delete on your keyboard to get rid of it. There's nothing further down the line that's getting skewed. We haven't put any B-roll further down the line that just got pulled or left in a weird spot, so we can just do a simple delete. All right, back in our B-roll bin, find Prod Shooting Jeff Phillip Dancer. So Prod Shooting Jeff Phillip Dancer. We're going to put this clip now where our playhead is. So bring that in and attach that to where the playhead is. So it's going to back up to that clip that we just cut down.
And track 1 or 2?
All this is in video 2 because it's B-roll. So we cut the clip in video 2 that was really long. We deleted the second half of it, and now we're adding another B-roll clip after it. All right, go back and activate your razor tool again. Let's see. Scrub ahead to 1:21:16. So that's just a smidge into that second clip we just added. And with our razor tool, we're going to click to cut that B-roll track right there again. And then we're going to take our selection tool and we're going to choose the clip after the second one, and we're going to delete that one also. And then finally, we're going to go back to our B-roll and we're going to choose Prod Monitor Dancer. So Prod Monitor Dancer. And we're going to drag this into our video track 2 timeline and stack it where our playhead is. And notice this is kind of a long one compared to the 2 that we've just cut down. And then we're going to take our playhead. You can try the time code of 1:22:18. In my case, it didn't work. You want to snap to where the video changes on track 1. So the switching point between the interview with Tyler and the interview with Adam 2 moving so fast. Snap to that point on video track 1. But then we're going to trim or edit the B-roll at that point. So take your razor tool again and cut on the B-roll, Prod Monitor Dancer, right where the playhead is. Take your selection tool again, choose the last part of it, and delete it. So now we've got 3 different B-roll clips playing after Tyler starts talking. So I'll just play this clip back for you right here.
A soundstage next door that we're going to be shooting at. It's this really large soundstage, and they're going to be sort of
So now we're-
performing while they have some backup dance.
Yep.
Yeah, just
So we went to the B-roll that kind of illustrates it. Does that make sense? While he's talking about stuff, you see clips of it. And these are all very small clips. So remember, our attention span isn't terribly long. 1, 2, 3 seconds and show us something new. Unless it's an interview and we're concentrating on what they're doing. All right, let's do a file save as and 105. All right, I'm trying to think where I'm going to have a logical ending point here. All right, we're going to use another tool. And again, I mentioned that in Blackboard, I have little video clips. So this one is called the slip tool. If you want to go back and be reminded how it works, I have a 1 or 2 minute video on using the slip tool rather than watching this whole super long lecture. All right, so this tool allows us to move a clip's frame forward or backward while maintaining the in and out points. So if it's a clip that we want to show for 3 seconds, but the actual clip itself is 10, and the 3 seconds that we have showing right now are boring, but we know there's better stuff down here, we can actually like shift it and bring it into the window and show those frames during those 3 seconds. Does that make sense? Kind of slipping it into view. The 3 that we had picked we don't like, so we're just going to slide it down. All right. I'm going to zoom in. So go to that clip we just added in the B-roll. Prod, monitor, dancer, and scrub through that. So here's the dancer. Fairly boring. Then we zoom out. That's the clip that we have showing for that amount of time right now. Not very interesting. Not the best choice. All right. Take the slip tool. So in your toolbar, if you have 2 rows, it's going to be in the left-hand row, 3rd one down. Slip tool is 2 lines with a double arrow between it. And bring that over and drag over this clip in your actual timeline. So click, hold down, and drag left and right. And notice that your program monitor changes. The top left is the last shot in the clip before it. And then on the left and the right are going to be your in clips and your out clips. So we can actually drag this to the left. It doesn't even look like I'm on it anymore. My cursor is way off to the left, but notice there's a lot more going on here as I drag to the left. And ultimately, we want to slip this back so that our in point is at 210, so right there. And automatically that will make our out point be 316, and then let go. So use that tool, start dragging to the left, keep going, keep going, keep going. Dragging to the left, you're going to feel like your cursor is way the heck over here. But when you get this to 210 as your in point, let go. Once you've done that, take your playhead back and scrub through that clip and see that you've got a much more exciting few seconds of clip. You use the slip tool to slip to some better options within that. Hold down, click and hold down, no, just on your mouse. Push down and hold and start dragging to the left and keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going.
Oh,
Let's put your playhead over top of this. Okay, now
I knew it did.
take that slip tool and click and drag and start to drag.
No, it's just
the controller.
Here's what happens.
That's what it was.
Here's what happens.
Just with the other games, the
210
Wizard Sorcery.
on this one.
Really?
What is your style? Okay, so maybe your numbers are different.
I knew Skyrim and VR wasn't gonna
Well,
be that
even
great.
so, that's the part that I queued up. Keep going to the
The
left.
controls already suck.
The
So I
volume
would
is
be
really
better in
dancing.
VR.
There you have the twos. Go to the right. You went too far. 210. Yeah, you just
you get really. I played it though. I didn't really get motion sick, but like Mario and his friends really got really motion sick. Like Skyrim.
It's weird because once you play around with the settings, like, when you look around, it makes everything go black. So like
That's
tunnel
really
vision.
I forgot about that.
So there it is, 210.
The thing is,
So
they
you were
didn't
dragging
actually.
right or left.
They didn't.
Did everybody
actually
get that to
make
work?
it-
Whether you dragged right or left, you eventually got it to show 210?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. All right, let's do another slip edit. This one is going to be at your discretion. I'm not going to give you numbers that are going to be exact, but first thing we're going to do is take our playhead in our timeline. So click on that to 124.11. And this is where Adam is about to say we're going to roll some camera. So I'm going to play it and make sure I'm in the right spot.
Together, we're about to roll some camera.
Yep, that works for me. So we want it to be right before he says we're going to roll some camera. 124.11 works pretty well. Now we're going to add some B-roll footage at this point. So he's talking about rolling camera. Let's put some in. Go to your B-roll. Prod matte moving camera is the one that we want now. Prod matte moving camera. Bring it in and snap the in point to our current playhead time. Then we're going to take our playhead forward just a little bit to 1:25:22. So about a second or 2 seconds ahead. And this is where he just finishes saying we're going to roll some camera. Using our simple selection tool, we're just going to trim that out point back to where we now have our playhead. So it's only a few seconds right here. So we scrubbed through it. We heard him saying what we wanted. And now we're going to end it when he says roll some film. So drag it back to your playhead. Oops, I went too far. And now if I look at this, when he's talking, this is what's showing in the B-roll.
Getting everything together, we're about to roll some camera.
Okay, so that's what's showing for those few seconds. But remember, that's a really long clip, and there might be better scenes inside there that we want to show for those 2 seconds. So we can use the slip tool to just move back and forth in the clip and see what we want. So choose the slip tool and hover over this clip and kind of see your previews. You can hover, pull left or right, see what all you have, and just try to find where you think a good in and out point is. You're seeing your in point on the left, your out point on the right. And at your discretion, just switch that up. Change your in and out points. So mine is now showing a slightly different portion of that clip.
And everything together, we're about to roll some camera.
So I got it when they're actually carrying the camera right up. We're going to add one more chunk of B-roll. We're going to go to 1:34:15. And I'll play it. This is when he starts talking about the laser thing.
We got a little laser thing.
Okay, so that's a good place for that. 1:34:15. You got a little laser thing. Switch back to your selection tool before we do anything else. Go into our B-roll again and find Prod Monitor Laser and drag that to video track 2 where our playhead is located. So that's when he starts talking about the lasers. And then take your playhead forward a little bit to 1:35:18. This is just as Adam finishes saying the word laser thing. So that would be a good point for this clip to go away. So take your selection tool and drag your out point back so that it snaps to that. He talked about the laser thing, and just during those 1 or 2 seconds, we're going to show some laser B-roll. But then we're going to look at the slip tool because the part that we have showing is kind of boring. So grab your slip tool, and we're going to get it so that it starts. The first frame shows Adam's hand in front of the monitor. So use that slip tool and drag it so like here. On mine it happens to be 18. I don't know what yours is, but the first frame should show his hand close to the monitor, like touching the monitor. That's where we want to slip this one to. So now
we got a little laser thing.
it's his hand pointing at it. If you want to fix that and slip it a little bit better, you can pull it back even more. All right. Two more things to do and then I'm going to stop for the day. The next one is how we reorder clips on the timeline. So we've got somebody talking down here and we just want to totally shift them 2 or 3 clips ahead and have everything move around perfectly and fill in all the gaps. We don't want to leave holes. So the first one we're going to do, or there's 3 versions. The first one we're going to do is an overwrite edit. We're going to move a clip on top of one underneath it, and it's going to wipe out the one underneath it and just take over that spot. So in the timeline, we're going to go way back in time to 4602. And that's when we have the 2 clips of Dwight and Philip watching monitor 02 and then watching monitor 01. We have those 2 different clips. Now we've decided that that first clip we don't like at all, but we want to take the second one and have it start where that one starts. So we're going to drag this one down and put it where this the first pre-Dwight is showing up. So what we're going to do, switch back to your selection tool. Don't be in any funky tools. Select the second of the 2 clips by clicking it once. That puts the white box around it to show that it's active. And we're going to click and drag it over to the left till it snaps to that starting point and let go. It's going to move it in place and wipe out the one that was underneath it. That's simple. Overwrite edit, if you drag it on top of one that's already there, it's going to wipe it out and get rid of it. Make sense? Okay. An insert edit is when you want to insert a clip between other clips without overwriting them. Go to your B-roll bin over here in the project panel and we're going to close it. So twirl that shut. Back in our timeline, we want to go, let's try the time code first and see if it works. 1:22:18. Not quite. Go to the edit point between the 2. So you are at the edit point between Tyler 1 and Adam's moving so fast. Have your playhead there. And at this point, we want to insert a shot of the dancers. So all clips on our timeline in unlocked tracks, after the point, will automatically scoot to the right to make room for it to be plopped inside there. Just enough for that inserted clip to fit. All right, let's go back to our interview bin. Twirl that open and find interview dancers and drag it up into the source monitor or double click it to bring it up into our source monitor. You've already edited in and out points, so there's just a small part of this that we're going to be using. And at the bottom of the source panel over here with our dancers, we have those icons for overwrite or insert. Make sure that you're hovering over the insert button, and wherever your playhead is, that's where it's going to insert it. So click on insert. Notice it dropped in the dancers and it pushed everything else in an unlocked track to the right, which is good because that's what we were going for, was everything got pushed to the right. Everybody good so far? All right, the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to reorder something. We're going to move it around completely. So we need to find interview Heidi somewhere in our timeline. That's back a little ways. I'm just going to make my timeline a little bit smaller or zoom out on it. so I can find Heidi. There she is. You want to drag your timeline back. She's around the 102 point is where you're going to find that clip. And then I want you to have your timeline small enough so that you can see. We're going to take Heidi and we're going to move her 2 clips to the left. So she's going to go between Dwight camera 1 and Philip. That's where we're ultimately moving here. However, we don't want to leave a hole, so we have to do some keyboard shortcuts to move her where we want to move her. All right. Take your playhead to the start point between Dwight 2 and Heidi, and then click to select the interview with Heidi so that you have the white outline around her. As we're starting to drag to the left, we're going to hold Command and Option, and we're going to Command Option, and we're going to drag her after Dwight, and that's going to drop her in and push Philip to the right. There's no hole where we left her, and it made exactly enough room to drop her in. So Command Option will do that for you. Okay, that's reordering clips. Had we not been holding down those buttons, we would have done an overwrite. It would have wiped out the one underneath it, and it would have left a gap where she was. Okay. All right, let's do a file save as. This is important because this is where we're going to pick up next week. And save this as 111. I don't have a file. You're going to have to be able to get this one when we start up again next week in class.